Hello.
What was that?
Don't know.
Oh, right.
That's good shit.
Well, anyway, he's Chris. Ready? You couldn't even come in with quick that?
Nope.
Damn it. Well, he's Chris.
And he's Christian.
And this is Echo One, a
True Crime Podcast. And today, coming from parts unknown.
Well, Ashford.
Yeah. We've got
Staines, actually.
my brother and yours. Well, no, just my brother.
It might be this.
We've got Alexander David White.
Hey!
For the second podcast in a row.
Hello.
If anyone listened to Jack the Ripper a couple of weeks ago, you'll hear the same amount of bullshit now.
God, that's gone right really quick. Those 2
I know,
weeks.
those 2 weeks feels like
I know.
literally like, what, half an hour?
It feels like we've just got a beer and made some nachos and come back, and
God,
then
it
it's time
does,
to go
doesn't it?
again.
But why are we eating nachos, Chris? Why? What's that? And this beer?
That's
This
my
beer
business,
has...
not nachos.
Hey! Not nachos. Got that wrong.
Fuck that, didn't I?
So what's this beer called again?
This is a Michelada.
A Michelada. And why are we having nachos and Michelada?
Because we are covering crimes in wrestling.
Yeah, but it still doesn't really connect this.
And there's loads of wrestling in Mexico.
Let's go.
What am I?
Otra!
Otra cerveja obscura, por favor.
Por favor.
I don't speak that.
It's actually a cerveza clara.
That is a Visa Clara.
I got that wrong.
What does Clara mean?
Clear.
Clearly. Guess what obscura means?
Not clear.
Speak Mexican, do you?
Yeah.
Isn't it Spanish?
Mexicanese.
Right, so yes, we are doing crimes in wrestling. We've already done the crimes in music. This is our second part of crimes in the series. We will, the future, we're going to do crimes in politics, crimes in film, crimes in
You name it.
other things.
If there's a crime in it, we'll talk about it, whether you like it or not.
And you most likely don't. I've got a massive amount of nachos here that I'm going to have to eat far away from the mic.
Tonight, British Bulldog's going to win, whether he likes it or
Whether
not.
he likes it or not.
Just to throw back to SummerSlam 92.
I don't know.
So we are talking about we're talking about wrestlers and the crimes, what they've done. We are going to let, as the G to the S, we're going to let Alex go first.
Thanks.
Tell us your wrestler and the crimes, what they've done or had done or did have happened.
I will do, but first I just want to check something that I missed out on this.
Oh, great. He's doing
Oh, good,
research
he's not
while we're
ready.
recording.
Because I think this is important to it.
He's not ready. Just so you know, he's wearing a tiger mask on his head.
Wee.
Not an actual, not a tiger mask like a kid's mask of a tiger.
No, if you know wrestling, tiger mask is.
If you know wrestling, I know Tiger Mask is actually.
I have to explain this to people. They might not
Sato
be wrestling.
Satayama, whatever
I
his
just
name is.
forget
There
people
you
know
go.
wrestling.
Oh yeah.
It's a bit sad.
If you ever, while Alex is doing that, if you ever get the chance, go online and look up Tiger Mask versus Dynamite Kid, any match.
Oh, it's
Like,
great.
it's fucking incredible. It happened in the 80s and it would stand up now.
Do they end up kissing?
They're really.
They do, yeah.
Good, then I like it.
It's so good. So good. Amazing matches in Japan, particularly. Amazing. The best. Amazing wrestling, the best wrestling.
Best wrestling. It's the best
So
wrestling.
this subject isn't a slag off or commentary on wrestling itself. This is just a topic which we are concentrating on the crimes of a few people within it.
Me and Alex,
Alex and I.
I'm Alex and I.
Yeah, why are you putting yourself first, mate?
We are
He always comes first.
we are fans of the wrestling.
Fans of the wrestling.
Last year we travelled all the way to Mexico City to go watch wrestling.
We were there for 10 days. We were there for 10 days. And we managed to go to Arena Mexico 3 times. And we were only in Mexico City for like 7 days. Or
And I think in 1990,
Wasn't even
maybe
that.
91, I saw the UK Rampage
Ooh.
with Sergeant Slaughter versus Hulk Hogan.
Oh yeah.
That was
I did Sergeant Slaughter singing Hulk Hogan's voice. No, I did it in Randy. I think I did it in Randy.
Randy, I end up going a bit Randy Savage, yeah. Oh yeah, brother.
you always go a bit randy.
Did you see those 34-inch pythons, however big they are?
Is this a sex thing?
That's the size of his Hulk Hogan's arms.
22. I was
happens-
just working out.
What happens is when you take your vitamins and say your prayers, but don't do any steroids, you grow massive arms.
Do you become a massiff racist as well? Because
little
that's
bit.
what happened to him.
A little bit. What happens? The racism like emanates out of your head, and then you end up with a mullet,
Oh,
skullet.
a skullet, yeah.
terrible
And a
skullet.
Fu Manchu.
And a Fu Manchu.
Brother.
And then you
Brother.
Then you dye your short part of your beard black, but leave your moustache blonde.
Yeah, but
like
only when
some
you're
kind
evil.
of weirdo.
Only when you're
Only when
evil.
you're a bad guy, when you're a heel.
Oh, when you're Hollywood.
Only when you're healing it up.
Yeah, no, there are going to be, I think, some phrases around here of like heels and things. I will explain them as we go
Yeah.
for those people that don't
Oh, yeah,
know.
shall I mention it quickly in case we do say it? And then
Yep.
a heel in wrestling is a bad guy.
And in lucha wrestling, they're called a ruda.
Rudo. Rudo. And
Which literally means rude wrestler.
And the good guys in American and in general parlance nowadays is a face or a baby face. In old English wrestling, it was a blue eye.
Oh, blue eyes.
And in Mexican wrestling, it's a technico. Wrestling glossary.
Living the dream. We're absolutely living the dream here.
Right, well, Al, have you done your research?
I have, yeah. What I was trying to do was some maths, and I've come out with the
12.
22.
12.
Only 10 off.
Nice. Well, give us your story. Lay it on my silky chest.
My wrestler, I've started
It's a Cleveland steamer of news.
I've started mainstream because I think for people that aren't into wrestling, it'd be nice for them to hear a story about a name they might know.
Okay.
However,
who have you chosen?
Is it Hulk Hogan?
Adrian Adonis.
However,
like someone that we know.
I've realised that unless you're into wrestling, he's probably not even a big name because it's not like John Cena or Hulk Hogan where everyone knows him.
Non-wrestlers,
Or
it'll
The
be
Rock.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Hulk Hogan, and maybe... Nope. No, I was about to say-
Warrior. Has anyone noticed how much The Rock looks like Dwayne Johnson?
Oh.
It's fucking weird. I can't believe... Yeah, never in the same film and in the same place at the same time.
So I've chosen five-time Booker T.
Alex just did a spooneroonie on the table.
I did this
As
spinneroonie,
well.
yeah. I did it right over the nachos. Got salsa at my back. Terrible.
I literally understood none of those references, so I'll just go...
This is just going to be me and Alex laughing at each other and ourselves at wrestling things.
It'll be you two and Kia at home, that's it.
Yeah.
Kia is one of our friends who listens to this, so hope you enjoy this, Kia.
I can't wait when I move. Me and him are going to go Southampton watch some Rev Pro Wrestling. I'm so excited.
Nice. It's going to be...
Wait, you're telling the fans where you live.
I've also just invited myself along to that.
Kira, is Alex invited to Rev Pro?
He can't answer you now.
I am me.
Go on Twitter. He's probably on
DM
Twitch
me.
now.
You'll get a reply in like 4 weeks.
No? Well, when this goes out, yeah.
In 4 weeks.
I might just ask him.
After the event. So Booker T, people would maybe... I mean, he was huge in WCW. Five-time champion. I can't remember.
What is 5 times? He won 5
He,
times.
he was a 5-time heavyweight champion. It was the heavyweight championship at that point, I think. He was famous for wrestling with his brother Stevie Ray,
Yep.
who I thought was kayfabe
Stevie
brother,
Ray T?
which is really weird. For
They're genuine
ages,
brothers,
but they're
aren't they?
genuine brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kayfabe, I'm going to use that term probably quite a lot, and I've just realised I've just used it. Kayfabe is the old carny wrestling term for fake. Sort of within storyline. So if we say something's kayfabe, it means it was storyline, but not necessarily true in real life. Like Hulk Hogan is kayfabe, not racist.
But in real life, racist.
But in real life, he's actually
Massively
racist.
Kayfabe said his...
Where does that come from?
Kayfabe's...
I think it's carny talk. It's
it's
like
carny talk, but I've looked it up and there's not a definitive...
Epidemiology.
Yeah, of it.
lovely stuff.
I did a long word.
Well done.
So before his wrestling days, he was a young thug. He wasn't really a thug. He grew up in Houston with his brother and his family. They grew up in
The tease.
a single parent.
What about his dad, Mister?
Well, this is it. He grew up in a single parent
Mr. T.
family with his brother. I think his brother and because the rest of his
Are they
family were famous people such as Mr. T and Ice T. He didn't really have a father figure other than his brother.
Brother. Did he? Is he from Harlem?
I mean, that's a question that could be answered that I don't know.
He's not. He's from the South, but him and his brother's tag team was Harlem Heat.
I'm trying to not break kayfabe here. I'm trying to not give away the story.
But they're from Houston, aren't they? I think.
I just literally said they grew up in Houston.
Oh, sorry, I missed it.
This was no.
Oh, sorry.
Go on, listen.
Oh, sorry. I was. You know what? I wasn't listening. I was waiting to speak.
I know you were. Yeah, I saw it in your eyes.
Then you got the wrestlers who were the Sheiks, who just turned out to be Italian.
I know, right? Yeah.
The Harlem Sheiks.
Or like,
I get it.
Abdullah the Butcher,
Yes.
who's
Yeah.
also Southern.
Yeah, from
Massively
Atlanta or
similar.
something.
Anyway, so he grew up in Houston, and one of his first jobs was he worked at Wendy's.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, square burgers
Square burgers.
and chili made of day old burgers.
He wasn't very good at it though,
How do you know?
because it says it on the research I've done. He
How are you not good at working at Wendy's?
apparently undercooked burgers, overcooked fries.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's an awful combination.
Well, especially if you're working at Wendy's.
That's normal for a Wendy's, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's also all your food.
Yeah.
You're not good at cooking the two things you sell.
So we worked with his friend Zach, who they were basically the same. They worked really poorly, probably mucking about.
This was when he was young. This wasn't like when he was like a 50-year-old.
I mean, he wasn't that old. He was 22. That was the maths I was doing before.
So he's 22. He was shit at his work.
He wasn't old. He wasn't young either, though. He wasn't like a teenager trying to get through college.
Well, no, if you're talking about a 16-year-old doing that as their first job, you go, okay, they're being a dick, but you expect it. 22,
old enough to know better.
He wasn't meant for that line of work.
So
that line work. Because he was
a
line cook in Wendy's.
So his friend Zach ended up quitting.
Oh, yep.
And Booker got sacked in the end.
Oh, so he was he called Cookity when he was there?
I think we need a moment's pause so everyone at home can appreciate that while I just repeat it for you again.
Was he called Cookity when he was there?
I hope you're all laughing.
So, out of work, smoking a lot of illegal substances.
Are you casting aspersions on his character, or has he admitted this?
I think he admitted it. I don't know. I read it or something.
Then it's true.
It's probably
if you read it, was it on the internet?
It was on the internet, so I assume that's
definitely true.
Zach came up with a plan. Now the plan,
I reckon, now that the fact you're talking about it on this podcast, it's probably a really good plan.
That makes it, yeah, probably. Came up with a plan. Then he came up with it first, and everyone laughed it off. And then he would, over the next few weeks, would keep suggesting it. And the suggestion was,
was it wrestling?
It wasn't wrestling.
No.
That's how this podcast started. I jokingly went, why don't we start a podcast?
And then the next time I saw him, I bought everything and I had everything. I'm like, let's do it then. And he's like,
I've done my research, Ned.
But yeah, what was the plan?
So the plan was to rob Wendy's.
Oh right, fucking hell! All right, that's a step
rob
up.
the place that you worked at, where everyone knows who you are.
In their Wendy's uniforms, because they still had the uniforms.
Well, then, if where would you say he was from? Where is this?
Houston.
So Houston at the time.
For the American listeners, the Gulfgate Mall in Houston.
What year is about this?
1987.
What year is about this?
What year is about this? Sorry, Yoda.
How dare you? I was about to make an astute point, but now
Go on,
I just
go
won't.
for it.
I can't remember what it is.
Please make your
It wasn't
point,
an astute point. I'm lying and saying it was. I realised it might have been a racist thing, so I'm just going to cut that.
Okay, good. Let's cut that.
It's going to be like, if he robbed the place and then they said it was you, he could just say you're being racist.
Yeah, it's my brother.
I can't actually hear very well with this mask. It's like holding it away from my ears. That's much better. Sorry, the wrestling mask have just come off.
I'm sweating like Booker T at Wendy's.
So, that's what they did.
That's a shit plan.
They got some guns.
No, you robbed somewhere you've... Wait, he had the uniforms. They could have actually walked into Wendy's and convinced them they were still working there and robbed it that way. But no. So obviously they wore the uniforms, but then took guns as well.
Yeah, but this was the other thing. They started by concealing their faces with stockings.
But please tell me that the uniforms have the name tags on.
What's the point of wearing a fucking uniform if you've got stockings on your head and a gun?
But then they stopped wearing them.
What? They took the stockings off?
Yep, pretty quickly after the first couple.
Houston. Maybe it was a bit hot.
It was probably hot.
Probably hot, but stupid and probably naive, to be fair.
They're 22. You can't be naive at 22.
Walking into a restaurant with a .38 caliber pistol and their work uniforms, often behind legitimate employees, taking the trash out.
Wait, you say often behind?
Yeah.
As in like...
No, not always. Sometimes through the front door, but mostly behind.
Well, he did this more than once.
They did it a lot of times, yes.
Oh, right. I didn't know that. I thought it was one time.
No.
Hear me now.
It was at least 5 times. 5 times. 5 times. It wasn't. It was a few times though.
Oh, right. Cool. I didn't know that. I thought it was one time.
Anyway, it escalated pretty quickly.
Escalated quickly.
So they did it a lot, basically. Soon, the crime was less of... Let's start that again.
Nope.
What? I can't keep that in.
I'm gonna. No, I'm not. Don't worry.
Only I heard that.
Soon it was a bit of a...
One monitors.
Soon it was a... No, I couldn't hear that thing. Soon it was a crime of... Like we talked about the serial killers in the last episode, enjoying their crimes, waiting for the feedback. They would go and rob the Wendy's with their guns, rush home and wait for the news to report on it. It was great.
It's like if you think
this was the local news, one of the local news headlines, which I think is great. Wendy's bandits strike again.
Wendy's bandits.
Over the first 3 months in 1987, Booker and his friend had robbed up to 12 Wendy's. Stealing between $400 and $4,000 each time.
Right. Why are they wearing the uniforms though? I don't get that.
To get access, so nobody would question it until they're actually in the
guns
premises.
And
But I guess if you can get behind the counter,
they've still got masks. If somebody walks into a Wendy's and they have a mask over their face, they're going to be there to rob it, whether they're wearing a uniform
what
or
I'm
not.
imagining is that they went to like the back of Wendy's, got into like the door without being like noticed because it just didn't raise suspicion, and then you put the mask on at the point you're doing something suspicious, and that's when people start to notice you. You know what I mean?
Fair
Maybe
enough,
something like that.
So 12 Wendy's.
12 fucking between
Wendy.
$400 and $4,000 a piece.
Wendy.
Exactly, yeah.
Is the, is
But
the,
yeah,
the
between, but
plural.
then it could be nothing. So in the end, Houston police issued a reward of $5,000 dues. No, it's dollars because it's not in Australia. $5,000 for information that would lead to the arrest. So the ads began playing on local Crime Stopper segments. And one of the interested viewers was Zach's girlfriend.
She's like, I know him.
She saw $5,000. She wasn't interested in the fact that he's just nicked $4,000. She wanted the extra $1,000.
Well, he wasn't necessarily giving her the $4,000.
Yeah, but I reckon he was probably buying her nice things.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy's burgers and things.
Think they just went and stole loads of Wendy's patties.
That's what I would have done.
No, you don't have to steal them. You know, you work there. Just
No,
make 'em.
they didn't work there though.
They did once, though.
Yeah, they did
but they
once,
were shit at it.
Mm.
But yeah, so they sold that much, and then she dobbed them in for $5,000.
Well, it doesn't. So the information's a bit sparse on the actual full case, and it doesn't say that she necessarily dubbed them in, but she's certainly listed as one of the interested in viewers in one of the Crime Stopper segments. And they
Fuck.
and they did eventually get arrested, obviously. So,
I mean, how long was it until they got arrested? Was it that year? Was it still 82?
Yeah, no, 87.
87.
Still, yeah,
Oh, no, 87.
yeah.
Fucking hell. So they weren't that good.
No, they weren't great.
But they managed to do 12.
Also, he worked there for 2.5 years before, which makes me think like he wasn't like
Can't mean that bad.
absolutely terrible at the job to work there.
But no, that might have been that the Houston standards in Wendy's are far below normal human standards. Of
Also,
food.
maybe as a 22-year-old, he was like one of the only full-time employees.
Yeah. So on his last day of freedom, Booker met Zach. They smoked and they sold weed. Because
they did that as well?
Yeah, they did that as well.
When did he get arrested? He got arrested.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
said.
So I'm just coming on to it.
Oh fucking hell! Jeez, I'm just impatient. Oh sweet.
Oh,
Lord.
you've got it. Oh.
Yeah. So we've just Chris just sent Al a picture of Booker T's mugshot, and we'll link this below. It is that guy. That guy right there has never been so happy in his life. He is proud of what he's done.
Zero fucks to give.
I mean, yeah, he might have been stoned off his tits, but that's a smile we can all aspire to do. If I'm ever that happy, I'm just going to be like, I can die now. I'm done.
I think I'm at Dignitas if I'm never that happy. It's finally over. I'm finally through.
So how long after did he join did he start wrestling? I mean he doesn't look stacked.
So he came out of prison basically, and so he did. He was allowed to serve 19 months of a 5-year sentence, basically. Got out on good behaviour. Linked up with his brother pretty soon after, who was already wrestling. So his brother was Stevie Ray, yeah, and that's how he got in. But so on the day of his arrest, they were smoking and selling weed. Booker went to the house, front door of his house, and sensed an eerie quiet, and there was a full-on SWAT team out there.
Fucking hell.
Had him on the ground, cuffed him. He feigned ignorance, obviously, as you would when you were initially doing it. Gone.
What's a Wendy's?
Yeah.
I imagine that's what he did.
Yes.
Just feigning ignorance. What's a Wendy's?
That's great.
I don't
I like why you
expect
haven't done an
English.
accent.
What is Wendy's?
I don't know. What is this Wendy's?
But you got to think Booker T
not
is
speak English.
But
What is
I always
Wendy's?
knew Booker T as being muscly as hell. Like that guy was stacked.
I mean, he
that
was.
picture there looks like it's a skinny guy. So that
He would have
time,
been.
that 19 months in jail,
Yeah.
he hit it hard. And I'm not talking about the other. He probably hit the other prisoners hard, sexually or with violence. Who knows? But no,
Sexual violence.
he must have built up in prison because he's a big guy.
I mean, I think quite a lot of it was he probably was a skinny little kid that. I mean, he was fairly tall, but a skinny kid that went to prison, learned the hard way, came out of prison after having like a severe 19 months, whatever it was, and his brother trained him up.
So he was in. Was he in WCW before WWE?
Yeah. So he was
yeah.
really famous for being in WCW. WWE brought him over as like the star attraction. When WWE bought WCW, they brought Booker over as like the main attraction really and pushed him straight away because he had already been five-time champion. So they knew.
I'm actually surprised because normally McMahon never liked anyone with a record.
No.
No, you know what?
Difficult though. Depends what
there's-
record it was.
Yeah.
What he hates more is someone who he didn't create, so it's even more surprising
Yeah.
that he let Booker T. But what he loves more than anything is money.
Ah, yes.
And if you can bring money in, he does not give a shit.
So what you're saying is, despite the fact we're going to be telling stories of wrestlers who have done crimes, he might be the biggest criminal of all.
Ooh.
But yes,
We're not talking about snooker, are we?
I haven't got snooker on my list.
No,
though.
okay, you haven't got snooker.
Nope.
Oh. So Jimmy Snooker, quick, it's related to Vince McMahon. So Jimmy Snooker, it's widely accepted he killed his girlfriend back in the 90s.
he admitted he killed his girlfriend.
And it's generally, was it not 80s, 90s, 80s? It must have been 80s, I think.
Must be
when it
80s,
happened.
yeah.
I think it was.
And it's widely, don't want to get myself in trouble.
Presumed?
Theorized that Vince McMahon might have helped gloss over the issue because
Snooker at the time
he was
big.
making a shit ton of money for the WWF.
Well, he was.
Yeah.
I mean that's
true.
But then that's
Also,
WWE are kind of full of that.
Stevie Ray's real first name is Lash. That's a well good name.
It's a
Lash.
wrestling name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's,
full of
Book,
wrestling.
what's Booker T's actual name?
He's Booker.
Booker Hoffman.
Robert is first name. Robert
Is it?
Robert Booker
Well, I
T.O.
never
Huffman.
knew that, even with my research.
Booker what?
Booker T.O.
Booker T. Oh, well, that's where Booker T.
Huffman.
comes from.
So it's his middle.
But no, you got to think that that's actually his name. Now you think of all the ones like who've got these made-up names that are just nothing to do with their actual name. Booker T. Come on, that's well done.
Just to contrast, like the two guys that went to prison, so Booker and then Zach. So Booker served 19 months of a consecutive 5-year sentence.
And Zach?
Zach served 9.5 years of a 22-year.
What was the
shit.
difference?
Good behaviour. I assume he must have. I mean, I don't have the stuff here.
Then again, it could have been something like Zach held the gun.
Yeah, it could have
There
been.
might
It
have
does
been one
say
gun, he might have held
armed
one-
robbery and aggravated assault is what Booker got done for. So I don't know what.
Unless he could have killed someone with 19. You got to think 19 years. Zach could have
Yeah.
killed someone. I mean, there's
Possibly. And also maybe Booker T talked to the police, so got a reduced sentence.
maybe. Yeah. So yeah.
Cool.
So
So
that's
Booker
Booker
That's
T.
a good story. I never actually knew any of that.
Everyone loves Booker. I knew bits of it. I didn't know all the details. I thought it was a
I
one-time
didn't know
thing.
he wore a Wendy's outfit to rob a Wendy's, and that is so dumb.
I mean, he's still like, and the thing is, he's still part of the WWE team, and you
Yeah.
still see him on pay-per-views doing the pre-shows.
And
and
he's
he's really
university-
pulled it together.
University.
I've got to
loved
say,
as well.
for a guy who has been both sides, he's been the good guy, he's been the bad guy. Either way, he has been at the top of his game every time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's been successful
for a long time, like
such a long
consistently successful.
Yeah,
So that's Booker T.
that's Booker T. Chris,
Booker T. Huffman.
what one are you going to first?
I'm going to go to coming in at 6'7", 287 pounds.
Is this supposed to be American that you're doing, or is that?
I don't know
what
really.
accent is?
It was Mid-Atlantic.
All right, okay, carry on.
Scott Oliver Hall, born October 20th, 1958, otherwise known as Scott Hall, formerly known as Razor Ramon,
The bad guy.
the bad guy, formerly known as Diamond Stud,
Oh, I remember.
Yeah,
formerly known as Big Scott Hall.
Big Scott Hall. I can't remember
Listen
rest
to
of
the
that rap.
Wrestle
Rock Rumble.
from the AWA, and he's Big Scott Hall, and he's got a big old porn star mustache, and he looks amazing. It's so good.
He was tagging with Kurt Hennig before Mr. Perfect Days, and it is
Yeah.
the most amazing looking video.
Just so
I've
you know,
ever seen.
none of this was written down as well. It's just been like talking about wrestling that we remember. So he's a retired professional wrestler. He was massively famous. He was famous in WWF as Razor Ramon.
Yeah, I remember
Then
that.
him and Kevin Nash with Diesel got signed over to WCW and helped form the NWO, New World Order.
Yeah.
New World Organization of
Organisation
Wrestling,
of-
brother. That's what Hulk
That's
Hogan, when he
Hulk
did the
Hogan,
big
so
heel
fuck.
turn, said the name wrong. Again, just memory. We just know that happened. Literally nothing. And
Okay.
but yeah, so he was a big star. He had one of the greatest ever ladder matches with Shawn Michaels,
great.
and then a really good one again after. But the first one was really good, and it still holds up. Really, really good. And yeah, got signed by WCW, helped launch the NWO. That helped launch WCW from being like a regional promotion. It was international but tiny, quite big here, but
Not competing with the WWF
no,
standard.
they were
WWF
second by a
like, yeah.
long way. And then all of a sudden, they went and beat WWF in the ratings for 83 weeks.
Podcast friends.
83 Weeks is a really good podcast with Eric Bischoff, but it's also 83 Weeks they beat WWF in the ratings, and Scott Hall being part of NWO.
He's not reading any of this off notes or anything. This is all from his mind.
This is from my brain. Yeah, and it's well known that he's had issues. I say it's well known. It's well known within wrestling. He's had issues with drugs and alcohol for a long time. So he used to, back in the day, he hung out with the Clique, which was a backstage group in the WWF of Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Triple H, but he didn't drink or do drugs. He was their driver. They let him around because they liked him, and he was always a designated driver.
So how sad a man do you have to be that you go, I'm just going to hang out with you guys?
Well, because he was like a student of the game, so he was like, I get to learn from all these.
He was still fucking huge.
No, not then he wasn't.
No.
This is when he first started in WWF in the 90s.
He was tall as fuck.
Oh, big like that, yeah.
Big,
But
yeah.
he was small. But he was smaller in stature than Scott Hall. Scott Hall's bigger than you think.
Scott Hall's huge.
He's billed at 6'7". He was probably 6'5".
Whoa, he's built
But
a six. I always thought he was like 6'1".
No, in reality, he's like probably 6'4", 6'5". He's a huge human being. And so you had this group, and Savio Vega was part of the Clique.
Yeah,
backstage,
also,
which was really weird. I really like him.
Packers or Kid.
Oh yeah, and 1-2-3 Kid.
Sean Waltman.
Sean Waltman,
X-Pac.
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 X-Pac. So yeah, so they were famous for their like kind of debauchery and excess, and took a lot of drugs, drunk a shit ton of alcohol. So you've got. So this is going over.
Had some sunny days. Oh no, wait, that's Bret Hart.
That was Bret Hart. He said it. That
Shawn
was Shawn
Michaels
Michaels said it about Bret Hart. Yeah. So I'm going to work up some of the crimes that you will know about, and then I will hit you, bang, straight in the gooch with another crime that you might not know. So in 1998, Hall was arrested for groping a 56-year-old woman outside a hotel in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Why am I laughing? That's horrible.
I never saw that crime. Is that a real crime?
Apparently so, according to the internet.
What year?
1998.
God, he wasn't.
No, he was
an old guy, was he?
So he was born in 58. So he was 40, and he groped a 56-year-old.
I mean, I guess. That's...
On October, so this is just a pot-marked kind of history of some of his crimes. On October the 10th, 2008, he was arrested during the roast of the Iron Sheik. Have you seen this? It's on the YouTubes.
It's amazing.
At the Crown Plaza Hotel in New Jersey, this comedian called Jimmy Graham, he joked about the Iron Sheik. He said after the Sheik and Hacksaw Jim Duggan got caught smoking coke in a parking lot, his career fell faster than Owen Hart.
Yeah.
That's not the story that happened. What happened it's actually the Iron Sheik was a bad guy, and Hacksaw Jim Duggan was a good guy. They were heels and faces. This is back in the day of kayfabe when bad guys and good guys weren't allowed to be seen together. They were traveling together, Iron Sheik and Duggan. They were feuding on TV. And they were travelling the road. They were in their car together, smoking a shit ton of weed, like hotboxed their car, got pulled over by the police, and it ended up in the press that the bad guy and the good guy who were feuding with each other got caught smoking weed in a car together.
They could have really included that in the story.
Cast your mind back to like a more innocent time where people didn't realise wrestling was predetermined. It's not fake, by the way. People that think it's fake, but it is predetermined. So, imagine not knowing that the good guys and bad guys were actually friends.
Yeah.
And we're going for beers with each other. Vince would, back in the day, insist that they travelled separately, or whoever the promoters were.
They would have separate dressing rooms in venues.
Yeah, and they would travel, and they weren't allowed to be seen in public because of the damage it would do to the storyline.
Yeah. And they got the policeman pulled them over and found them in the car, stoned off their fucking gourd. And it ended up all in the press. So that's the actual story. But anyway, so he said this joke, and he said it. Iron Sheik's career fell faster than Owen Hart, which is poor taste at a wrestling thing, even though it's a roast. So in Race Hall, and there's a video of this, he was drunk. He charged at Graham and knocked him down the podium, knocked him over. Then he grabbed the microphone and yelled about how the joke was disrespectful to Hart. Graham described the incident on MySpace page, claiming Hall was drunk at the time of the attack. He was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and resisting police arrest. And then also, and then 2 years later in 2010, he was charged with disorderly conduct and resisting a police officer. Police were called to the Hitching Post bar in Choluteca, Florida, after Hall, who had been drinking heavily, according to police report, became aggressive. When they arrived, they found him yelling and cursing at amateur wrestling personalities and bar staff. Who was told he was not allowed to return to the establishment. In his police statement, he described himself as an unemployed professional wrestler despite having a job with TNA Wrestling, who would release him a month later. I remember that happening.
So, would you keep your voice down? Fuck you!
On April 6th, 2012, he was arrested in Choluteca, Florida, again by deputies for the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, and he was reported for a domestic disturbance involving his girlfriend. Hall allegedly choked her while he was drunk. He was taken to hospital to be medically cleared prior to being taken to a drunk tank. He denied the choking allegations, and they dropped the charges. So that's some relatively minor, and within that there's...
And to be fair, if they drop the charges, doesn't mean he was guilty, so...
Yeah, but...
We're presuming.
But within those, there's spousal abuse again and again and again.
So
there's
he's got a history
disorderly
of violence while drunk.
There is, yeah. But so let's take this back.
Taking it back now.
Taking it back now. Can I just, before you take it all the way back, in the Wayback Machine, hashtag stuff you should know, fantastic podcast.
Oh, that's what that's from. I couldn't remember what the Wayback Machine was from.
But if you get a chance, YouTube that Scott Hall, what was his name, the comedian?
It was the roast of the Iron Sheik.
Google
Graham Hall.
Yeah, Google Graham Hall, Scott Hall, Graham Hall.
Yeah,
Graham Hall, Scott Hall.
I'll link it.
No, I don't.
In fact, don't worry about
that.
I'll
Jimmy
link
Graham.
it below.
Link it below because that video is amazing. It is
it's peak angry drunk Scott Hall.
It's so good. It is like it's good and bad. It's really sad when you see what like it's good, it's bad, it's really really sad. Just making up rap. Wrestle rap.
The wrestle rap.
I don't know. I did that.
The Alex Twat Rumble.
I wish I hadn't done that now.
Yeah.
Like a bit of
well, that's going to be a rap. Look at me. That's the rap heard around the world.
Watch it because it's for like his Razor Ramon glory and how amazing he was, and to see him fall to
Actually,
even the Outsiders bit where he was like making more money than he ever would, even though he wasn't in the best place mentally at that point. But like watch it and just see how sad it is to watch him fall and like.
Watch Scott Hall. Watch Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels ladder match,
and
then immediately
and then WrestleMania 10 or whatever it was,
and then immediately watch the roast of the Iron Sheik
because it is a bit,
and then watch his appearance at
Legends of
Wrestling. Sad.
Anyway, sorry. Let's get back in the hashtag stuff you should know.
Stuff you should know. Copyright Wayback Machine.
And we're back.
So, all the way back, January 15th, 1983. A 25-year-old Scott Hall. He was working at a bartender at the Dollhouse.
Not the Wendy's.
A strip club.
I thought Booker T was going to walk in.
Which is a strip club in Orlando that apparently is still there.
Oh,
nice.
Let's go.
Let's go.
We're going.
When we go
to WrestleMania next year, let's go. All right, that's our plans.
The Orange Blossom, and it's the strip club that still stands today on Orange Blossom Trail in Orlando. So So this is a quote from him. Scott Hall said, "I remember what he was wearing, what I was wearing, what it smells like. It's burnt in my brain." What he was referring to is an incident outside the strip club when he was working the door there, where Scott Hall killed a man.
What?
He killed a man.
Wait, you really started off with, his spousal abuse later on, then jumped back in time and he killed someone.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to start at the top. Everything else we shit off.
Fucking hell.
I was weaving a narrative.
Nice, I like it.
So we don't know exactly what caused it. He said it was over a woman.
Probably him?
He said, Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Pronouns, brother. It was Scott Hall said it was over a girl or over a woman. Like, we don't know what it was, whether it was...
Pal. Pronouns pal.
Pronouns pal, that's it, yeah, but... Oh, yeah.
Getting Vince McMahon and Hulk Hogan mixed up.
Oh, brother. Pronouns pal. We don't know whether it was a woman was a love interest or whether it was one of the girls that was working at the bar.
But it was just about
it was about a woman. So this guy, apparently this guy that Scott Hall killed, he smashed out all the windows in Scott Hall's car. And so Scott Hall walked out and the security guard was there. And Scott Hall was like, "Where is he?" And he found the guy. And Scott Hall said, this is his quote. He said, "I drilled him and he went down." So he didn't have sex with him. He punched him in the face.
Oh, I was expecting.
And he hit the deck. He said the guy's shirt went up and he was reaching for a gun. So the guy had a gun like in his waistband apparently. Yeah. They tussled and like right old fisticuffs. Wrestled around on the floor, reaching for the gun. It was like, Anyway, they were fighting. They were reaching for the gun. The guy reached for apparently Scott Hall's story is the guy reached for the gun. Scott Hall grabbed the gun
and it went up all over his chest
and shot him in the head, point blank range with a .45 caliber gun.
Oh fucking hell! He wasn't even messing around then. It wasn't accidental death. It was
no.
He shot him in the face.
They were fighting. He was scared that he was going to get shot, so he grabbed the gun and shot the guy. And Scott Hall shot the guy first.
Would you say it was a colossal tussle?
It was a colossal tussle. That was one of the suggested names for WrestleMania.
Colossal tussle.
Colossal tussle.
So I don't mean to take the
No, that's
drama
good.
away from your story.
No, that's okay. Yeah, Colossal Tussle was one of the names they put forward for WrestleMania.
That's wonderful.
So apparently the homicide case was
The
eventually...
homicide case.
Homicide case was eventually dismissed due to insufficient evidence.
The guy's dead. There's evidence.
But obviously they don't know what happened, whether it was self-defense or whatever, so he got cleared. But Scott Hall says that he always says like this is the start of his troubles, like that's the start of his kind of mental issues. So he became incredibly successful after that, but he always had the fact that he killed a man point blank range on his mind, and he puts down all of his troubles, all of the fact that he wanted to, no matter how successful he was, all he wanted to do was like get himself away from reality and get his head out of it.
Well, you got to think that you got all the wrestlers that accidentally kill people in the ring. There's history's kind of littered with the ones where the accidents happen. You're dealing with huge guys throwing each other around really violently, whether people think it's fake or not. It's what they're going through is not fake. It's predetermined.
It's physical.
But you got to think that if you kill someone during wrestling, it's one thing, and it's very difficult to be able to come back from that.
Yeah,
the knowledge of shooting someone in the face must be
D'Lo Brown accidentally paralysed Droz, and he was never. He wrestled for years after that, but he was never the same again. People say he was never the same again after that. But Razor Ramon, Scott Hall shot someone at point blank range in the head with a handgun. He wants to see a picture of my Funko Pop Razor Ramon.
You can tell that he's got troubles. He's dead behind the eyes.
That's a Funko.
He's big headed though, isn't he? Full of himself. He's big head. Anyway, that's Scott Hall.
Nice.
Sad, but he's sort of turned it around now. He still has to live with that, but he seems
to be sober at the moment.
DDP helped him a lot.
Yeah, DDP took him into his house. His what do they call it? It doesn't matter. Let's get that bit.
Sex box.
Yeah, DDP sex box.
It's my sex box, and her name is Sony. Accountability.
What is that from?
Family Guy.
Yeah,
I think it's Family Guy. Is it Accountability House or Accountability something? And he's DDP took Scott Hall in there.
Have you ever seen the
the documentary
Jaded Snake documentary, which is
so
called
sad.
It's really sad, but there's a bit of Scott Hall in there where they meet him at the airport and he's in a wheelchair, grey haired, doughy, and just looks horrific. And you see his transformation like really quickly because obviously the documentary about Jaded Snake, but they touch on Scott Hall and it's amazing.
But there's also a Scott Hall one called Living on a Razor's Edge, which is a Scott Hall documentary.
Oh, Living on the edge, living on a razor's edge, balancing on a ledge. My favourite Iron Maiden lyric of all the time. Balancing on a ledge. Christian loves Iron Maiden.
They're great.
He's high on Maiden.
I like them as much as Pink Floyd.
What?
No,
well, I mean, that should
you've just lost a listener.
I mean, that should be loads because they're both wonderful and great and very good.
Anyway,
cool.
Let's continue.
Yeah. Anyway,
Christian, have you got
Christian?
a?
We are now on
Christian.
At last, you're on your own.
I'm on my own.
That was Christian's theme.
Are you trying to tell me my girlfriend's dumped me by accident?
By accident? I think it was by accident.
She's dead.
What?
She's not
She's not
dead.
Right, I am going to talk about Buck Rock and Roll Zumhofe.
Well, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't even.
Basically, he trained alongside the Iron Sheik, bringing it back to your last story with the Iron Sheik. Part of his gimmick was he carried a boombox. We're dating it here to the mid-'80s. He became a popular heavyweight competitor in the AWA, the American Wrestling Association, in the mid-'80s.
That's the group that did the Wrestle Rock Rumble.
Yep.
Yeah.
He feuded primarily with Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal.
That's not Steve Regal as in William Regal. That is the original.
That's the original. Yeah.
Who was on what podcast was he on?
He was on Jim Cornette's
podcast last year.
He also wrestled in the WCCW, the World Class Championship Wrestling, and he teamed with Iceman King Parsons as the Rock and Soul Connection. He held where they held tag team championships in '85. He returned to AWA after that, became a champion, defeating Steve Regal.
I can't believe I've never heard from him. He was quite successful.
Yeah, he also made sporadic appearances of the WWF as a jobber during the '80s and '90s. He was the first wrestler to be put in a body bag by The Undertaker.
Can I stop you?
And he was also the first wrestler to face Triple H.
Oh, that's both those things are really interesting.
We could just another term that we might hear and now
Jobber?
again is the term jobber. Christian, do you want to describe what a jobber is?
I haven't got a fucking clue, mate. Make this up.
So a jobber is basically someone that's hired to lose. They put what they call put someone over. So if they've got someone that they want to build as like the next big thing, or even if they just want to build them as one of their competitors, they'll hire a jobber in. and the jobber's job is to come in, do a job, which is where the term comes from, jobber. So they'll do a job for the other guy, and they'll basically lose and get beaten up.
Normally, it's like local talent, so they go into a town, and if they've got someone they want to make a monster, so back in the day it might have been Hulk Hogan or Ultimate Warrior or Undertaker or someone shit like Drunk Gonzalez, or more recently it was like Bray Wyatt and people like that, and they'll get some local talent and they'll have the most generic like tights, and then they'll just lose.
But no, Zumhofe then in 2000 opened the rock and roll wrestling promotion. So he was part of that. If you know anything about that, nope. That's basically where they had bands playing and wrestling during the event.
All right. When was this?
2000 that was.
Oh, okay.
But now go back to his previous legal troubles during all of this happening. In 1986, he was found guilty of sexual misconduct with a minor, as in a young person, not someone who goes down the mines and digs for coal. He served 36 months in prison and then was also convicted of 4th-degree sexual assault with a minor in 1989. I don't know what that means. Fourth degree. Is that first, second, third, and fourth base? I have no idea, but I should have looked into that.
Is it better or worse? Wait, maybe they're not the right.
But then we got to think, like, bear in mind that was in 86. He was there then 89, and then in 1999, his daughter Heather, she was 14. She'd never met him before. He met her for the first time when she was 14, 1999.
I feel this is going to end up happy ever after. It's going to be wonderful.
It will,
father-daughter story.
No, it's not.
Did he show her love and?
He basically, she moved in with him.
Yeah.
Because, it's her dad and all that.
Nice.
And between 1999 and 2011, he repeatedly raped and molested her. She claimed over 1,800 individual sexual assaults.
800?
1,800.
1,800?
1,800. 1,800. She chronicled them in diaries and things like that. Yeah. And in 2013, when she finally managed to get away from this utter monster,
piece of shit,
she filed the criminal complaints. And in 2013, the prosecutor charged him with 12 counts of criminal sexual misconduct, and he was sentenced to 25 years in prison.
What age was he at this point?
At that point, well, he's 68 now. Oh, so this was 2014, so he was 63 at the time.
Yeah, that's
piece of
long
shit.
Time to.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that I'll see if I can find a picture of him actually, because when you know the kind of thing when you say that people don't look like criminals, it's the ones you least expect. Tell me this guy doesn't rape his daughter.
Oh, he's the one you most expect.
He's the one.
And I'm not saying this flippantly. I will put a link to it. The guy's obviously got fucking screw looses everywhere. It's what he did was fucking horrendous. And for a guy that really, all right, he wasn't at the top of his game for wrestling. There are people a lot higher than him, but he had a good career. He had a good job. He had a lot of opportunities given to him, and
he was successful in the AWA.
Yeah, and he
was massive. That was
and they were using him as a jobber in WWE.
Yeah,
so
he was getting work.
But then he turns out he did all that. So fuck him. Hope he dies in prison.
Yeah,
and that's my one. I went down a bit. And Al, we're going on to your next one. What are you going to do? Is it going to be murder? Is it going to be rape? Is it going to be rapey murder? Is it going to be tax evasion? Is it going to be not stealing your next door's post?
What if I said it was a mixture of all of them? It's not.
Oh.
So
I mean, if you said it, it'd be pretty
I'm
good.
going to talk about Verne Gagne. Now,
Verne Gagne, he is the guy that trained.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Zumhofe.
He run the AWA.
AWA.
Didn't he?
Yes, he's So
Verne Gagne.
It's all linking.
Verne Gagne might be known to people that are into wrestling a bit deeper than just the WWE stuff.
Yep.
Because he was, as I say, massively famous. So I'm going to list off. I'm going to read off a list of accomplishments and things from his career, and I'm going to get you two to guess at what point the incident happened.
I actually don't know
the
this.
Crime.
So I don't know what the
crime
Yeah,
was.
these
Let's
guys
go
aren't
there.
free to this. So he was an American professional wrestler, football player, wrestling trainer, and wrestling promoter. Debuted in 1949.
He did it then.
Debuted in 19... You don't have to stop me. I'll ask you after. Debuted in 1949. Formed the AWA.
Mm-hmm. Was
Very
that
back.
49 it was done?
To 1960. 1960 he did that. Effectively taking the Minneapolis territory away from the NWA. So the NWA was obviously National Wrestling Alliance.
not the
Association.
with attitude.
No.
No.
Oh.
No. So he effectively took that away, which is huge. That's absolutely
Yeah.
massive. We can't
To take
overstate
that
how
whole
big that is.
territory.
Feuded with massive names in wrestling, if you're into your wrestling. So, Gene Knitsky, Bill Miller.
These are real feuds, not
these are kayfabe feuds.
These are kayfabe feuds.
But like for him to be put in the position to be able to do this, Dr. Bill Miller under a mask both as Dr. X and Mr. M. Right. Fritz von Dr. X. Yeah, Fritz von Erich, the Crusher, Ray Stevens, Mad Dog Vacon, which is obviously Luna Vacon, Larry Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel.
Larry Hennig was Mr. Perfect's dad.
Yes. Yeah. So massive names.
Yeah.
Kurt
Hennig was that his name?
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah.
So, 16-time World Heavyweight Champion, NWA United States Heavyweight Champion twice, IWA World Heavyweight Champion, remained the owner promoter of AWA until 91 when the company folded.
Yep.
WWE, WCW, and Pro Wrestling Illustrated Hall of Famer. Cauliflower Alley Club Luther's Lifetime Achievement Award. Massive, absolutely massive. Yeah. So this guy, it can't be overstated how important this guy was to wrestling. Given the fact we've already established that a lot of crimes happened in wrestling, and especially given the power that people had during the time, do you guys want to take a guess on roughly what era it was that he committed his crime?
I would say all the way through it, and it's a continual crime, because I don't know what the crime is, but I think it's continual.
It was one specific incident that happened.
Right. It'll be at the top, wherever he's at the
when he was
most opportunity.
At his most power.
Yeah.
Highest time. So January 26th, 2009.
Oh, what the fuck?
At the age of 82.
Oh, fucking hell.
I thought it was going to be when he was a champion.
No, I'm not saying he didn't.
When he was owning when he owned AWA and the belt was on his son and he was like kicking off and all that, being powerful.
What did he do?
So I'm not saying he didn't commit crimes all through that, because I'm pretty sure he probably did, because most of those wrestling guys did. But at the age of 82, at the Bloomington, Minnesota facility where Gagne and the victim,
I've just remembered this story,
Helmut Gutmann, both resided. So it was basically a retirement home.
Yeah.
So Gagne and Gutmann got into an altercation.
Please tell me you like body slammed.
Anyone want to guess how old Gutmann was?
Please tell me older. 90-something.
97.
Fucking hell.
So according to Gutmann's widow, so he's dead now,
I imagine,
who was not present during the altercation, bear in mind, Gagne picked Gutmann up and held him to the floor, broke his hip by pulling back on his body. So basically,
a 97-year-old, you could literally blow on him and he'd break.
82-year-old picked up a 97-year-old at a retirement home,
they're both
slammed him to the floor. No.
Oh, so he wasn't a wrestler, so he's not picking up like...
No, he just picked up
Verne Gagne just picked up an old
man.
Yeah.
Slammed into the floor, pulled back on his body. I don't know. It doesn't say specifics.
But
I really hope it's like
Boston
a camel
Crab
clutch.
I'm thinking like a camel clutch.
I'm thinking a camel clutch, yeah.
Or yeah, but maybe
Boston Crab.
He did his hip, yeah.
Fucking hell.
He stretched a 97-year-old.
And broke his hip.
So here's a quote. The attack, which was not a wrestling body slam, apparently, happened quickly while the men were at the table. This is Bloomington Police Chief Jeff Potts. This quote's from.
Does he?
It was more like a push and a shove, and it caused Gutmann to fall.
So which one was it? Did he put him in a wrestling hold, or did he?
So two varying statements, but I like to think that he.
I think it was a wrestling move.
Did a helicopter with him over his shoulders, and then like.
I reckon he dropped a big elbow or like a big. He did a big boot and then a big leg drop.
That's what I like to think. But it says a push and a shove, so I reckon they had an altercation over a poker chip.
He probably pushed and shoved him. He fell over, but then he put him in a wrestling hold and broke his hip.
But also, because Gagne was an amateur wrestler, I think, before he was a pro wrestler.
And he was also a football player as well.
He was a legitimate shooter, so he could really fight.
Yeah, and he was a hard.
Yeah, so I reckon he took him down. He probably tripped him. He probably pushed him and did like a trip, and then like fucking stretched him on the floor.
So straight after the incident, neither man had any recollection of it.
Doubt. I imagine that's true of the guy that had his hip broken.
I will come back. Let's come back to this. Gutmann was admitted to hospital and died on February the 14th from complications of the injury.
He actually killed him?
He killed him.
Fucking hell.
So, February 25th, 2009, his death was officially ruled as homicide by Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. So, homicide of a 90-odd-year-old by an 80-odd-year-old in a retirement home. However, on March 12, 2009, Hennepin County Prosecutor's Office officially announced that Gagne would not be criminally charged due to the fact he was suffering from dementia and lacked the mental capacity necessary to have intended to harm Gutmann.
Yeah.
How much do you believe it?
I reckon
believe
it's probably legit. But the thing is that it's like a retained,
Memory,
it's a
yeah.
retained memory to be
You
able
do
to
the
slam
same
someone
thing,
to the floor
like
and pull
they're
back on
doing
their body.
a lot of the time, they're doing over 300 days a year. Like,
yeah. He could just beat the shit out of someone without thinking about it. Clearly, like evidently.
Fucking hell.
I'd forgotten about that story.
I
It
can't
wasn't
believe
until you
somebody's
said
that old doing that.
I know, right? Slamming.
Being that poor 90-odd-year-old
Now-
guy lifting in there like,
So, sadly, obviously, Gagne lived another 6 years after this and died in 2015. So not that long ago, really. But
damn.
the like horrific, obviously, but something I wouldn't mind watching.
What, an 80-year-old body
Yeah.
slamming
Two really
a
old men
90-year-old?
fighting.
I like the thought of I like the thought of him slamming him to the floor and pulling back on his body.
Is that what
I
you want to
wouldn't
do?
wanna
Is
see
that
his-
the way you want to go? Like when you're 90 years old and home, like, I don't
Yes.
want to die of cancer.
I want to be slammed
Please.
to the floor. Put me in a camel clutch, going to the big squared circle in the sky.
He's he's like a little bit younger than you, like that, like MJF or someone, like 22-year-old now. It's like
Yeah.
be able to like just in old people's home together and just pick a fight with him. So he slams you and
Anyway, not mocking dementia because it is horrific, and obviously
it's
the whole
really
incident
sad.
was horrific, but amazing at the
Yeah.
same time in a weird way. So yeah, that's
Nice.
Gagne.
so
Verne Gagne.
Chris, is yours related? Ours has been all like linking one by one. Is yours? How's your relating to this?
wrestling.
Oh, right, okay, and then not.
Born Aurelian Smith, August 1st.
Aurelian.
Yeah, August 1st, 1932 in Grayson County, Texas. Billed at 6'8" and 350 pounds. Anyone know who this guy is? You might not even know when I say it. Alex might. Alex will.
Go on.
Grizzly Smith.
No.
Grizzly Smith. So his name, although his name might not be familiar, he's got some more famous children. Who were wrestlers. So there was one, his first son Michael, otherwise known as Sam Houston. Not that known. Then there was Robin, who was known as Rockin' Robin. She was in WWF in the early
Yeah.
WrestleManias, I think.
No,
and
I,
every
remember,
old
I
stuff.
remember her.
But most famous, Aurelian Jr., Jake the Snake Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
So Jake the Snake Roberts has got his own history, but I've chosen to talk about his dad, who was a piece of shit.
Which is, to be fair, in line with why Jake the Snake's history
Yeah.
of drugs happened.
So Jake Roberts claims that Smith was, and this is all like most of this information is available on Beyond the Mat, and also there's a Jake Roberts shoot interview and some other bits, and the WWF special on Jake Roberts. So Jake Roberts claims that Smith was dating Jake's grandmother when he raped her 13-year-old daughter. So
whoa.
So
yeah,
let's get this.
Hold on a sec.
Can you just
His mother, Jake's mother,
Yeah.
was raped by his father,
Yep.
who was
Dating the little girl's mother.
the little.
Who was
whose
Jake's-
whose little girl?
So this guy,
Yeah.
Grizzly Smith, is dating this woman,
Yeah.
and this woman has a 13-year-old daughter.
Uh huh.
He raped the 13-year-old daughter
And gave birth to Jake
and
the Snake.
gave birth to Jake the Snake.
Fucking hell.
And do you know what he did to get out of being done for rape?
no?
He married her.
Wait, this is South
That's
America,
absolutely
isn't it? This
insane.
is Southern States.
Yeah, southern states.
Oh, so 13 is the legal age.
In
Right
like
then.
the 40s or 50s. 50s, wasn't it, probably?
Fucking hell,
50s,
that's
yeah.
dark.
So he raped Jake the Snake's. He was going out with. So when you he was
What
going.
would the mum
He was
do?
going out with.
Oh, you're marrying her. Well, that's okay.
It said like one of the things I read. It said like he was forced to. Grizzly Smith was forced to marry the 13-year-old against their wishes, and the resulting emotional trauma is responsible for Robert's substance abuse and his sister's mental health problems.
I don't doubt that.
Yeah, so
Fucking horrible.
so Smith raped Jake's mother whilst going out with Jake's
It's
grandmother. It's so
absolutely crazy, isn't it?
fucked. So Jake.
Poor guy, really. No, poor Jake, not
Yeah.
poor.
So that's how Jake was born. That's it. That's what the family was born into. So Rockin' Robin, so Jake's sister, she claimed that she was abused by Smith repeatedly from the age of 6 years old. It went on. I don't know how many years but it went on for a few years. And Robin went to her mother. Robin's mother suspected that something was going on.
Why? I wonder why.
Robin told her mum, and to be fair, Robin confessed the abuse and was taken away from Grizzly Smith's care. So when the mum
Fair
did,
enough.
but it went on for years and was repeated. Jake Roberts as well has accused. Jake Roberts says that he was abused all through his life, wasn't he? He said
Yeah.
it in like documentary stuff. He said he was abused by his father, sexually abused,
Yeah.
like raped by his dad. Both Robin and Jake also accused Grizzly of raping their sister, Jolene Smith. Now, according to Jake Roberts, Jolene Smith was repeatedly raped by Grizzly 3 years, and finally, at the age of 18, she ran away and she married a man who was 35 years older than her.
Yeah.
The man that Jolene Smith married, her ex-wife, kidnapped Jolene and murdered her
Because of taking her husband.
Yeah. The ex-wife served 10 years on a kidnapping charge, was never found guilty of murder due to lack of evidence.
But they must have if she was taken on a kidnapping charge, they knew that they had a body, so she knew she was dead.
Yeah, and they probably just
But they couldn't prove that she did.
So rather than risking everything, they get her on like one charge.
Yeah.
But all there's a bit more as well. But like all from Grizzly Smith, absolute piece of shit, abused his family, which definitely had a massive hand in them having. So Rockin' Robin has got mental health issues. Jake Roberts had many mental health and substance abuse issues.
Massive substance abuse.
And the other daughter ran into the arms of basically like a father figure, you would say, and that ended up her being killed. But also,
this is a really sad story.
I know. After Grizzly Smith's wrestling career ended, he served as a backstage official for the WWF and a road agent for World Championship Wrestling. And like Mick Foley said about it in his book, and it's been claimed by a lot of wrestlers, and it seems to be like an open secret that on the road, when they went to any town, he would go and search out young girls. Yeah, he had a taste for young girls, and he would search out, and he would find the younger girls that were around the wrestlers. And it seems that the different organisations knew about it, but because he's so experienced in the industry, they kept him around as an agent.
He was known. That's
the
the
90s.
big thing about wrestling. Sort of companies in general were like that. Like you had someone that was experienced and road tested and well respected in terms of their abilities, like booking or whatever. That you would turn a blind eye to everything else because they were making you money.
So he's probably a paedophile every town they go to, and he's got girls lined up wherever they go to, but they let him go. But it's okay because
Please tell me he died really painfully.
Well, I don't know if it was really painfully, but first of all, during Hurricane Katrina, he lost all his stuff.
Yeah,
except for some shoes. I read it, some shoes and a few bits of clothes.
He doesn't deserve them.
That was okay. And then in 2010, he died of Alzheimer's in Amarillo, Texas.
Good.
There's a really interesting documentary that I'm sure if you're a wrestling fan, you've probably seen it a million times because I've. And if you aren't really a wrestling fan, you're dabbling in wrestling, you kind of find it interesting, go watch Beyond the Mat.
Yeah.
To be fair, even if you don't like wrestling, watch that documentary. It's one of the best ever.
It's great. And there's a really amazing scene, that is in that, isn't it? Where Jake Roberts is with his dad.
Yes.
And he's like on his farm or on whatever they're digging, and it's like an amazing scene. It's just like stood in silence, not saying anything to each other, but that thing of him being his dad like pulls him back to him constantly, even though like logically us like looking in on it would think never talk.
Why are you even?
And Jake Roberts says in that same documentary that I was abused by my father, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes bravery to say that to anyone. Saying it on camera, then getting the camera crew around you and the person you've accused of abusing you.
Yeah.
I mean, fucked up guy, brave as hell.
It's an amazing scene. So
that
go
was
watch
that wasn't a feel good story. I apologise. It was pretty heavy. What have you got?
I'm going on to one of my favourite ones. Born in 1957 in Mexico, Juana Barraza Samperio. Yeah, we're going La Dama de Silencio, or known as the Lady of Silence. She was an independent wrestler and lucha libre. Her character was Ruda de Corazon. So she was a heel. She also ran wrestling events, and that's the thing she was primarily known for. She did them in an arena in San Juan. She did high quality lucha shows, and at one of them she signed over 200 wrestlers for one show.
Whoa.
And the ones that she couldn't get in to fight, paid them anyway. And she was really well respected because she always paid well, and she was always respectable, and everything was great. And everyone liked her. Not many people can remember her fighting though. There are pictures of Juana Barraza in lucha and lucha outfit with a ladies champion wrestling belt around her neck, and one with around her waist. But nobody can actually remember her wrestling. So it's quite disputed as to how good she was, but they all remember her as the booker for it.
Yeah.
She was also known as, I'm going to probably say this wrong, La Matavillatas? Anyway, it translates as the Old Lady Killer. Mm-hmm. This wasn't a wrestling name.
Oh, right.
She targeted women 60 and older, hence the name the Old Lady Killer. She pretended to be a social worker offering to sign up her victim to welfare programs. And then she would either beat them to death or strangle them. And some of them were sexually assaulted.
Lovely.
Oh, just for lows.
She stole religious items from their houses as trophies. Going back a bit, she had an abusive alcoholic mother who traded her for drink to a man who raped her repeatedly.
Oh my God.
And from those rapes, she got pregnant. The first son that she had died after being mugged and beaten with a bat.
Jesus Christ.
It was here where most people believe started that was the mental break, and that started her crime career. She also had 3 other kids by 3 other fathers during that time. But in the crimes that she did, in January the 25th, 2006, she was seen leaving the murder scene by a neighbor. She was 48 years old at this point. The police caught her at that point. She only admitted that crime. But then, of course, they searched the house and found all the trophies.
Look at my things.
The investigators traced her fingerprints to over 40 other killings.
Fuck.
Going back to just days after her son was killed in 2008.
Wow.
Oh, sorry, no, that was in 2008. It was in the 90s. In 2008, she stood trial for 30 murders that they could prove it to.
30.
She was found guilty of 16, and she was sentenced to 759 years.
Jesus Christ.
Forever.
She's eligible for parole in 2058. So
nearly.
she will be 101 when she's eligible for parole. In 2015, she wed a fellow prisoner. In 2016,
Female prisoner.
she divorced the fellow prisoner.
Female prisoner.
Yes, female prisoner. But the thing that isn't the most interesting part of the story. The most interesting part of the story is how the Mexican police handled this. The Mexican police handled it.
Can I guess? Not very well.
Oh, not at all. Because she wasn't particularly huge, but she was quite stocky. And the witnesses around the time, when they saw a figure leaving places, they referred to a very broad-shouldered woman who looked like a man in a dress. So what did they do? They persecuted the trans community to the point of they went through the drag queen scenes and the transvestite scenes and the transsexual scenes and basically getting every single one of them in and basically beating, trying to get confessions out of anyone because they were convinced it was a man address because a woman could never do this. To be fair, there are crime scene pictures of the people she killed. She was strong as fuck. I know she's going between 60-year-old and 8-year-olds, but some of the bruisings on the necks that she did with her hands tied, sometimes with a belt, I mean, she had some strength behind her, but then she was a lucha wrestler. Whether it's disputed or not, she literally had strength behind her. They believed it's a man in a dress. They swept through the communities, believing the killer to be one of them. They believed that the thing they announced was the killer was aged between 35 and 45 and had homosexual preferences. That was their thing. It couldn't have been the age. All right, she was 48, but still, kind of age. Wrong sex, wrong everything else. They didn't even try to look into any other thing. They just it was one witness that said the broad shoulders, and they took it from there. But that I found really interesting because they took that. But then as soon as that she was convicted, in the news, in the Mexican news, everywhere, and she was known as the Dama de Silencio became a name. And so, how do you say Mataviatas? Yeah. Mataviatas? Yetas? Yeah, the old woman. Yeah, so that obviously that was not a name she used.
I don't know. I said it really.
Should have asked Rachel. Should know.
But yeah, so that's the La Dama de Silencio. She was a serial killer who stole money and anything she could from women, but took it out. The popular theory from psychologists for this was she was only targeting old women, not because of what that they were weaker than her, but because they were her mother. Because her mother was basically responsible for the abuse that she suffered from other men, she was taking it out on them. And that's also why she took religious iconography from them, because they don't deserve religion. She considered herself a good person. I say no. No, not a good person.
Not the best.
But the thing is, they linked her to 40 other killings, and she was guilty of 16. That's a lot. Jack the Ripper.
She was busy.
Talking about Jack the Ripper, and he had 5. I had never heard of her before now, and they said it's possible she could have been over 100.
Unbelievable.
Because they only found fingerprints at 40, but then they only
A
found
woman's work is never
16.
done.
No, and she was a cleaner. She went around people's houses cleaning.
I am the cleaner.
But she cleaned them of their lives. So yeah, Chris has gone to probably get more beer.
Are you
I
getting
think
beer?
he's getting beer.
Lovely.
So that was mine. I'll put down in the link a picture of La Dama de Silencio so you can see her. And I want everyone who is listening to look at the picture I've put of Juana Barraza Samperio and
That was
try
great, by the way.
and
Yeah,
replicate how she's standing. Because Chris, Al, and I tried it earlier on, and it's really difficult to stand at that weird angle.
She's sort of leaning off to the side. It's almost as if the camera's tilted rather than her being tilted.
Yeah, but it's also like
she's
in the middle of moving, but they managed to catch her perfectly. But she's not. She's
for the British listeners, what she looks like is Del Boy falling through the bar.
yes, she literally does. So yeah, there's mine. La Dama de Silencio, Juana Barraza Samperio. I probably pronounced everything wrong because I do not speak Mexican or Spanish.
Thanks.
Mexican or Spanish?
Mexican or Spanish. Al, you are up next.
Yay!
Let me guess. We've had murder. We've had abuse.
We had robbery.
We've had robbery. We've had lots of murders. I think you're going to go on to... It's going to be a robbery one.
Sort of. A little bit of a robbery
Did
one.
he rob someone of life?
So, what if I was to tell you... I've started my last one like that as well. That the wrestler was actually the victim in this story.
Say what?
Say what? So yeah, we're also going to stick on the subject of lucha libre.
South of the border.
Down Mexico way. Yeah. We're going to stick with Dingo and the Baby.
So, by the way, Al thinks that in our podcast we should have catchphrases and noises and little samples. To
Just Howard Stern
play.
it up a bit. Do something.
Well, what could our catchphrase be?
Moida.
Podcasting. It's Moira.
That was great. That sounded so good.
I love that.
I really enjoyed that.
It really sounded good. So we're going to stick with Lucha Libre, but we're going to go for...
Can I have a quick question?
Yeah.
What does Lucha Libre actually translate to?
free wrestling.
Free fight. Yeah,
free
free
fighting.
fighting.
All
So
right, cool.
Lucha is...
Lucha is fighting and
Fighting.
Libre is
Libre
free.
is
As in
free.
like
As in-
Libre, Cuba
Oh, yeah.
Libre. or
Cuba
whatever.
Libre.
Oh, cool. Okay, sorry, I just had to interject.
So
In Portugal, it's Luta Livre, and that's actually a fighting form, like actual fighting.
what do you mean actual?
Like MMA.
What as opposed to...
As
Cuddling.
opposed to
as
the
opposed to professional cuddling.
as opposed to predetermined
cuddling.
fighting.
It's cuddling. They cuddle each other.
I'm not sure Lucha Libre is actually predetermined.
I mean, it did look a fair, like a proper fight when we watched it.
So I am going to also go on to saying that... I don't know why I'm talking like that.
No.
So I'm about to talk, and what I'm about to say is... So we're going to stick on Lucha Libre, and this time we're going to go with the wrestlers being the victims, and notice I say wrestlers and victims.
Nice.
So we're talking about La Parkita and Espectrito. Oh man, I practiced this. I practiced it loads. Espectrito 2 DOS. So basically,
Can you try and say the whole thing?
La Parkita and Espectrito. No.
Okay.
Espectrito. La Parkita and Espectrito DOS, which is basically La Parkita is the mini estrella luchador version of La Parka, which people will know from WCW. If you used to watch WCW, he was a WCW chairman. La Parka was. But he's a
He used to hit people with a chair.
massive superstar in Mexico as a luchador.
He still wrestles in AAA now when he's like in his 50s as LA Park.
Yeah, LA Park, yeah. La Auténtico Park, that means. And Espectrito 2 is the mini version of Espectrito. So we're talking about...
the mini version.
So what we're talking about is midget wrestlers.
Are you? Can you say midget wrestling?
I don't know, but that's what...
This is the actual term that the Mexican Jews and the industry still use. But the Mexicans will say mini estrella luchador.
Yeah,
So let's stick to mini estrella. But they're little people wrestlers. And America was... the American wrestling companies were famous for making them part of like a joke.
Yeah.
They're really well respected.
Well, back in the freak shows in like the Dust Bowl era, kind of the 20s, part of the freak show is they used to have midget wrestling as part of the freak show element of it. Like, not even Mexican ones. Like, but
Yeah,
in
but
America.
But you go to Mexico, they're really well respected.
They're just wrestlers. They
treated
do
as-
everything.
Yeah, they're not treated. I mean, they
Go through as much like brutal damage as the rest of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good on them.
But yeah, like,
So I'm going to say this wrong every time I say it, but Espectrito 2, Espectrito 2. If you're a WWE fan from the Attitude Era, you'll know him as Mini Mankind from the 1997 Mini
wow,
Rumble.
I remember that. I was literally looking at a picture of that the other day with Mini Mankind, Mini Vader, and Mini
Vader was not very good.
Mini Vader, Mini Mankind, and Mini Kane, I think.
Yeah, it was Mini Kane. So there was a Mini Vader. I'm pretty sure there's somewhere in here, but Mini Vader was also a relation somewhere, and I can't remember exactly.
There
where it was.
was a
Sure,
photo
that
on
was-
Reddit
that was
the other day.
So yeah, we're talking about these two, and they were, as I say, like really well respected as wrestlers. So Alberto Perez Jimenez, La Parkita, and his twin brother Alejandro Jimenez, which was Espectrito. I'm going to stop saying his name.
So they were twins.
They were twins. So the two brothers checked into a hotel after a Sunday night show.
Is it a small hotel?
I mean,
A hotelette?
it was fairly pricey, and they both came up a little short. That's not even in context. Taking with them two dos in Spanish, Mexican female prostitutes.
So they had a match.
So they'd had a match, been wrestling, gone back to the hotel. Two prostitutes approached them, and they were more than happy to take them. They went see, and they took them back to the same hotel room. Two twin brothers, two prostitutes, one hotel room.
One turned up, and they went Otra, and she got this one.
Yeah.
Just wins again.
So
Otra.
allegedly, and they say allegedly.
When they say allegedly, do you mean it actually happened, but you've got to say it for legal reasons?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Oh no, actually it wasn't, because they did get charged later on. So this is an out-of-date article that I've used and haven't taken the word allegedly of. So two female prostitutes spiked the drinks of the two men. So these two prostitutes were from a group called La Filtración, which were a infamous group of prostitutes that used to drug clients, rob them.
Oh yeah, there's actually a spate of those across in the 80s, especially like in America. There was a load of them.
So what they would do is they'd use eye drops, and it'd be enough to knock them out, knock the victims out.
Eye drops?
Yeah, it's a type of eye drop. I assume it's an eye drop you can get in Mexico. You probably wouldn't be able to get over here.
Yeah.
But they would use eye drops, and it would be enough to knock them out. They'd rob them, leave, and
Wouldn't you be worried?
a few hours later you'd wake up.
Wouldn't you be worried? Because you're basically like, think about you're one of the prostitutes doing this. You normally do the poison to normal sized people. Wouldn't you be worried about actually killing them?
Dosing.
Dosing like dosages.
Funny you should say that, Christian,
Why? Ooh.
because the drinks were intended to knock the men out, but they died instead. Perhaps due to
There we
their
go.
small stature.
I was about to say, it's like how the body. Whoa, that would be the
So
first
now-
thing I would think of.
So now you've got two mini Estrella luchadors dead,
Killed by prozzies.
killed by prostitutes by accident. So, as I say, part of the group called La Filtración, which were kind of infamous but had never actually killed anyone up to this point. July 2009, it was reported that the Mexican police had arrested two women suspected of death of them. The police traced the whereabouts of the women by tracking one of Perez Jimenez twins' cell phones, which the prostitute used.
Oh,
So they robbed the phones. They then used the phones, and police traced them off of that phone.
See what you do if nowadays, in the last, like, I would say 20 years, 15 years maybe, if you mug someone and they have a phone, don't take it.
No.
That's basically it.
Or if
Don't
you take it, don't use it. Sell it.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
So they tracked the women down using a cell phone. The women admitted going to the hotel room.
See.
This was the first woman, actually, sorry. The woman admitted going to the hotel room, but denied being involved in the death. The police then tracked down the second suspect and arrested her. She admitted being at the crime scene, but maintained that it was an accomplice who administered the drugs and killed the twins. The women were then later found guilty, and on the 12th of July 2010, sentenced to 47 years in prison.
Yowzers.
Well, I guess they did it then.
He must have done it. So this next bit's quite interesting. The story of the Jimenez twins' murder was a subject of an episode of Tabloid with Jerry Springer.
Well, that's definitely true.
The show that shows a dramatized version of the events, including an interview with their mother, Maria Elena Jimenez, and brother Juan Jimenez, which I think might be the other guy. I've got some photos of it. So the episode revealed that
Juan. Not Juan.
Alberto was starting to become involved in local politics, but did not reveal any actual links between their death and Alberto's political aspirations. Now, the article left that hanging. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find any more links to there.
Okay.
But it's Mexican, it's politics, it's potential, but
It
my
sounds like
opinion
it's
is it's
corrupt.
prostitutes that killed him by accident.
It was just an accident.
I've got
so
some
we-
photos here that Christian, Chris, I think you might have seen
Yeah,
before.
I've-
Christian, I
remember
don't
them
think you've seen these.
I remember them from the time.
It is one of the saddest things you'd ever see. A luchador mourning the loss of his midget counterpart. So Espectrito mourning the loss of Espectrito dos. And then the coffins of the two Jimenez brothers. Christian's face is great.
It's
by
a
the way.
picture.
I'm just looking at those fucking masks. They're terrifying. Why is he wearing the mask at the funeral?
Oh man, I should have worn my La Parka mask.
I've got to say, there is nothing. I used to say there was nothing as sadder as a fat man crying. But now there is nothing as sadder as
Nothing
a
is
lucha.
sadder. Carne asada.
Yes, nothing as sad as a lucha mourning another lucha. I can't even see his face, but it's so fucking
Yeah, it's so
heartbreaking.
weird, isn't it?
Oh, look, and Al's changed his mask.
I've changed my mask to a La Parka mask.
That
Or in this case, I'm going to call it a La Parkita mask.
is... Also, these were little guys, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is there normal sized coffins?
Oh, they had a lot of stuff to be buried with. I don't know.
I don't know.
I assume it would mock them somewhat to have
A child.
smaller child size casket. They actually look longer than the normal one if you look at
I
them.
think it's
do
just
actually
the, I think
love
it's just the angle.
So that's sad.
That is sad.
That is very sad. That's...
I'm gonna do one more.
Uh-huh.
I think we might tag team on this one, Christian.
Oh,
Hey!
cool.
Ding, ding, ding! Keep hold of that rope.
Born Frank Goodish. He was alright. He was Goodish.
He
Frankie
was
Goodish.
fine.
Born Frank Goodish in June 1946. Billed as a tower is 6'8", 300 pounds.
Bruiser
Brody.
Yeah, that was Bruiser Brody. This was, we're talking about the 80s. This is
Yeah,
the
big in
incident was
80s. He was big. He was
wasn't
big
it?
in Japan. Yeah.
He was big in Japan. Yeah.
So his history, he was, to give a bit of history to him, he was an all-state football and basketball player at Warren High School in Michigan, played football at the West Texas A&M University, which is now the West Texas State, and he played football for the Washington Skins NFL. He was a successful athlete before he wrestled, and then he was also a sports writer in San Antonio, Texas. And the reason I mention that is it's quite interesting because he was a famous wild man, a famous brawler. His image
Very well liked.
was really well liked, really well respected, but his image was of a terrifying wild man.
Yeah.
But everyone says he was actually, when he wasn't in character, he was really nice and very intelligent. He wrestled for, amongst others, CS Central State Wrestling, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, which is WWF before it was the WWF, when Vincent J McMahon, Vincent K McMahon's dad owned it. So Vince Jr. is not technically a junior, is he? Because he's got a different middle name.
Yeah, but they do call him. I think they just normally call Vince Senior, just Senior.
Yeah.
It's just,
Southwest Championship Wrestling, Windy City Wrestling, World Wrestling Council down in Puerto Rico. We'll get back there in a minute.
yeah, let's get about that.
Deep South Wrestling, Championship Wrestling from Florida, American Wrestling Association, the AWO, with Verne Gagne, World Class Championship Wrestling, as well as a brief stint in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He also wrestled for All Japan Pro Wrestling as well, off the top of my head. And he was like he was a bit like a big star wherever he went, and was like famous for his wild and brawling style.
And people still emulate him in a lot of the matches modern day.
Absolutely. He's very well thought of, and he's still quite watchable. He's not as exciting as like the Dynamite Kid and Tiger Mask, but he's still a very watchable wrestler today, I think.
He's got a great style, and he's got like a style that wouldn't be as exciting as some, but he would hold up now. He could come in and he would be a huge star now, just his presence.
So unfortunately, all of this great promise, potential, stardom came to an end in Puerto Rico in July 1988.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
No, he was working for the WWC, the World Wrestling Council, for promoter Carlos Colon. Carlos Colon wrestled for the WWF, didn't he?
Rarely. He only ever wrestled in WWF if they were broadcasting that to Puerto Rico. That's the only time they ever. I think he appeared in a Royal Rumble once, and I think that was
I knew his name before I knew loads about wrestling,
he was
so he
famous
was
as a
like
promoter,
around. But then his sons,
Carlito
and Epico,
and Epico, yeah.
have wrestled in WWF, as well as being like a billion-time champions in WWC. But anyway, so WWC was quite a fairly big promotion. Like in Puerto Rico, it was huge.
This was at San Juan, wasn't it?
It was San Juan, Puerto Rico. There was a WWC, and I think was it IWA in Puerto Rico? I can't remember the other promotion in Puerto Rico. Had a really big I haven't got it written down, but they had a big inter-promotional feud. But they were a big company. So whilst working for the World Wrestling Council, from now on known as WWC, he wrestled a wrestler called Invader Number 1.
Also known as Jose Gonzalez.
Yes. They'd been arguing backstage. Now, I read that they had some history, and that Invader Number 1 had got upset with Brody because Brody previously had wrestled and refused to sell for him, so refused to make the moves look real. When Invader would hit him, he wouldn't make it look like it hurt him and stuff. So I think they had some history.
Well, basically, Bruiser there was two different ways of doing things. Jose Gonzalez was an imposing guy that everyone really respected, but also feared down in Puerto Rico. He was an event booker as well as a wrestler, so people were afraid of going against anything he did because they were afraid of not being booked by him when he was booking. So anything he said goes, normally. Yep. When he was fighting someone like Bruiser Brody, who's used to the American way of doing something where it's more loose and they can play off each other, work things around, and actually work it up for the audience, and especially on the night, Bruiser's one of the big things was he played to the audience. He knew exactly when something was happening that was not going well, they could mix it up and change the predetermined story.
Yeah, all the best wrestlers, particularly the old school types, that's what made them good. They could read an audience.
And as those two didn't, and Jose Gonzalez took it very personally that Bruiser Brody wasn't kowtowing the way that everyone else was around him and not doing things his way.
Yep.
And it culminated.
They had an argument backstage. Now, apparently what happened was... They took I've got this quote. They took their in quotes business discussion into the showers for privacy. And I'm like, watching even just like programs about prisons, like taking a discussion into the shower, feel like it's not going to end well.
Yeah, except for that was actually a very, very common thing in the wrestling business was to go and talk for your matches or talk for your business in the shower away from everyone
sunning
else.
Each other down.
They would go because it was one of the few private places within a stadium or within an arena.
It's not like if you ever watch WWF and they go backstage and there's like so-and-so's locker room or so-and-so's because it's obviously for the show, like kayfabe. In fact, they just share big old locker rooms like any sporting team would. So the only place, like you say, they can really go is into the shower.
You have to go somewhere where the press aren't, where the fans aren't, and that's really one of the only places.
Yeah, exactly. So they needed privacy. So it wasn't unusual. It just feels bad to me. But maybe because I know this story, that's why I feel like, don't go in the shower.
Well, for me, every time when I read that, I just went, ooh, this is going to end sexy.
Did not, no. I mean, something went in somewhere, but it wasn't what you could have been.
Yeah.
So they, the two set the business into the showers for privacy, and that's when the stabbing occurred.
Now, bear in mind, they weren't naked before. I did look that up.
No.
Because when I read they went into the shower, I was like, okay, they're going for a shower. And they're doing this. Because then I found out that stabbing happened with butcher knife. Bear in mind, not a small knife.
Yeah.
No,
and I was
yeah.
like, where the fuck did he hide that? But then they were actually fully clothed.
Oh, yeah.
He also had it under... Oh, is this part of the next thing? So he had it under a blanket or a t-shirt. He had it wrapped in his hand.
Yeah.
It wasn't visible.
Yeah. But they were closed. All I was going to say was they were closed. And they went in there for a shower, to the shower for a chat. And that's when Gonzalez started repeatedly stabbing Bruiser Brody.
Who didn't die straight away.
He did not die straight away. So a wrestler named Dutch Mantell, who you may know as Dirty Dutch Mantell. You may know him as...
Mantell.
What did I say?
Martel.
Oh, I did say Mantell, didn't I? Yeah, sorry, yeah. Not the
model.
The model Rick Mantell. Dutch Mantell, Dirty Dutch Mantell. More recently in the WWF or WWE is Zeb Coulter, if you remember him. Yeah, but anyway, Dutch Mantell, he's a legend in the business. Really like well famous wrestler, booker, I think, manager. He used to have an article in Power Slam magazine. We used to buy that.
If any of you have watched the Vice series, Dark Side of the Ring, is it called? Which is now I think on 4OD or something.
Yeah, in the UK.
It's amazing if you get to watch that, but that's all narrated by Dutch Mantell.
Yeah, the first episode is about this, and it's really, really good.
So from what I read of Dutch Mantell, boy, did he never get over this.
No, it was his friend, and he was there when it happened. So apparently, Dutch Mantell, he described the confusion at the scene. So this is his quote.
Do his accent.
No, I can't remember what his accent goes like. We all heard a scream and saw someone's hand with a knife go into a bigger guy. Gonzalez ran out Gonzalez ran out a secret hideaway in the back, and we all ran in and knew it was pretty bad. Brody's main chest wound had blood that was bubbling, so I figured his lung had been sliced open. Also, there was a wrestler called Tony Atlas, who you might remember from the old days of WWF. He was a powerlifter, I think, before he was a wrestler. He kept asking Tony Atlas to take care of his wife and kids. He said he knew. So
he knew he was
Dutch Mantell said he knew he was going to die, but he could talk. It took well over an hour for the ambulance to get there, and in the meantime, Dutch Mantell phoned up Brody's wife and said, "Look, you better come down," and that the rumours she'd heard were true about him being stabbed, as described by Atlas in The Dark Side of the Ring. Because Tony Atlas was at the hospital. He said the hospital was chaotic and filled to the brim with people in need of emergency treatment. So he apparently, and this is what Atlas said, I remember this from the documentary, he said he went and got a doctor, and the doctor was like, oh, we'll see him, or whatever. And Tony Atlas said he physically picked up the doctor and walked him into the room, carried him to his friend. And Dutch Mantell added that the police at the time believed the stabbing to be some kind of wrestling-related hoax. Now, I don't think they know that for sure. I think they're going back and piecing it together, because they're saying the police, they didn't feel... The ambulance took a long time to get there. The doctors weren't attending to him. The police didn't seem that interested.
Well, the police also...
And what they're saying is they think it was just an angle.
But there's also the police also, when they were at the scene, Atlas and Mantell were trying to speak to the police. The police dismissed them because they said, oh, we don't speak English, and refused to speak to them or even take a statement or get someone to take a statement because they weren't from Puerto Rico. They were only interviewing the people from Puerto Rico who weren't there at the time in the room.
Yes. And then along with that, you've got the issue of the fact that a lot of the local wrestlers, and I think Carlos Colon as well, wouldn't talk to the police. They
closed up shop.
The Puerto Rican ones especially were still, as I said before, they were afraid of Jose Gonzalez, and they knew that it could ruin their careers.
Absolutely, and also then if you've got Jose Gonzalez, you don't want to talk about, you don't want to go against whatever Carlos Colon, who owns the WWC. Yeah. If he's not talking, you're not going to talk. So apparently, you've got the problem of like slow response by the ambulance, slow response by the doctor, slow response by the police, the local wrestlers shutting up shop. Yeah. Apparently, Dutch Mantell, I've actually written Martell on this way. Dutch Mantell pointed out at the time it's him. And
I mean, he was arrested and tried for it.
Yes.
But I don't know if this is me jumping ahead or not. But
no, go for it. Oh yeah, I was going to say, in the hospital, Bruiser Brody did lose his life. He died of the wounds. He survived for hours. And you just feel that if the ambulance had got there, if they had an ambulance on site,
they possibly could have.
If the doctors had taken it seriously, he could have survived. Yeah. And he didn't. And it feels like he died like totally needlessly. Sorry, go on, Christian.
Well, no, I was saying the witness during the trial, the witness subpoenas were sent out to all the international people who were in the dressing room on the 13th of January 1989. Sorry. Because of international postage, it takes well over a week to get anything from outside of Puerto Rico. So the trial was set for the 24th of January. No one received any of them in time. Mantell received his subpoena to come to court on the 25th of January after he knew the outcome of the trial.
10 days late, he got his thing.
But no, all of them did. All of them, because they sent them out knowing it wouldn't get there in time.
Yeah.
But everyone beforehand, everyone from Puerto Rico was sent subpoenas 2 weeks before that and got them well in time, and they were all people speaking on behalf of Jose Gonzalez. But then no Puerto Rican wrestlers would testify against him.
No,
not
absolutely.
one.
No. So, and the fallout of all of this, Bruiser Brody was dead. Invader number 1 continued to work in the industry and get booked. Carlos Colon never answered to anyone. And it was all. That was it.
Not just even that.
A family lost a dad. They lost a husband, and the rest of the industry in Puerto Rico.
But in 2012, Invader number 1 became the director of the World Wrestling League in Puerto Rico. He became the head of the league. He's not now. He's retired recently, I believe. But yeah, so he literally his career
unaffected.
But like, it's mental because that Carlos Colon's
aftershave line called Carlos Colon.
Carlos Colon's connection to like the WWE has never been like cut either. So he's always been on good terms with them. It's not like a WWE thought, even for face, we should probably stop talking to him. It was like they've never bothered. It's just been it seems horrendous to me.
You've got the pool of wannabe wrestlers is massive. The pool of elite wrestlers and the pool of people who can run a massive promotion in Puerto Rico when WWF go down there can maybe use their talent and work with is one person.
Yeah, it's one person. Yeah.
Unfortunately, so it's like they'll still work with him because there's not many of him.
So like famously, Bruiser Brody went to like inspire people like Mick Foley. Like Mick Foley is basically was the modern incarnation of Bruiser Brody. His style and his attitude.
Yeah,
and his
it was Bruiser Brody mixed with Terry Funk equals Mick Foley.
So we did get some great stuff from Bruiser Brody's like legacy. Yeah, but it's just a shame he never had a chance to really make it on the like big stage that he could have.
Yeah,
and he should have probably. Yeah,
definitely.
There's also some great clips on YouTube if you just seek out and go on like a binge of watching random wrestling things that I do when I'm crying to myself at night. Of like Bruiser Brody out of character during an interview and stuff. I think that was on Dark Side of the Ring.
Yeah, it's on Dark Side of the Ring. Yeah.
Where he's like talking to the interviewer, not realizing that they're filming it, and he's just talking in general conversation. And it's great to see him, and then see him switch on the character suddenly. But oh shit! I didn't realize.
He said, like, he said this thing like, I don't. Is it the world doesn't need to know Frank Goodish, or doesn't need to know Frank?
Exactly.
Bruiser Brody's Frank Goodish.
Well, I'm going to do a very, very quick one. Very quick.
Yes.
It's Andre Davis, also known as the Gangster of Love or Sweet Sexy Sensation.
Oh, that is a fantastic name.
He was sentenced to 32 years in jail because he was having sex with women and not telling them that he was HIV positive.
Horrendous piece of
14
shit.
counts of felonious assaults.
How many? Sorry, how many?
Well,
how many?
Well, he was sentenced to 32 years, and there's 14 counts of felonious assault.
14.
And in 2009, this is before he was sentenced, the WWE knew about it, wouldn't hire him because he had HIV. And he was a danger to people in the ring.
Horrendous.
What a shit.
But yeah, so there's a quick one of like Andre Davis was basically had HIV and went around having sex with women anyway.
Was he sure that he had HIV?
Yes.
Was he HIV?
He was
absolutely positive.
He was positive. The fact he was called the Gangster of Love and Sweet Sex Sensation made it even like creepier.
Yeah, that is really creepy.
I don't actually know much more than him because I can't find much more about him. But I just know that.
I've never heard. Can I just give a honourable mention on the back of that to Abdullah the Butcher for giving Hannibal hepatitis by blading him.
Yep.
Basically, we know what blading is, Christian. Where
do you want to explain to the audience?
So blading is when you see wrestlers bleed. Most of the time, it's either hard way or blading. If it's hard way, they basically punch them in a soft bit of the body and it cuts them open. Most of the time, it'll be blading like around the forehead area where they cut themselves with a piece of like a razor blade, and that's how they get the blood effect. Now, what you would normally do as a wrestler is blade yourself, unless you really trusted the person you were with, and then you would let them blade you.
Unless you're New Jack, and then you decide to blade someone like Mass Transit a lot.
The Hannibal on the back of the Christian's HIV story, there was a Hannibal was an up and coming kind of aspiring wrestler. He had WWE tryouts. He's really good. There's more to. I'll come back to that. Abdullah the Butcher is a legendary wrestler, but a piece of shit. It has hepatitis.
I can't remember
whatever one it is. Bladed himself. And bladed Hannibal. Now, I think Hannibal asked him to blade him, I think, maybe. No, he didn't.
No,
I think he specifically asked him not to.
He said don't because he's got hepatitis, and he just did it anyway.
Did
he have yeah,
he had finger blades. So
razor blades touched with his fingers.
So he had razor blades touched with fingers. And if you watch the video, just YouTube it. It's amazing. It's just terrible. So basically, Abdullah blades himself and then blades Hannibal with the same blade. Hannibal later on then went on to have a trial with WWE. Got a contract offer.
Yep.
They then did the blood tests, and it came back that he had hepatitis, stemming from that horrific incident.
Abdullah fucked his career.
So was Abdullah ever brought up on this, or was he too old by that time?
He went to court, and I think he paid, didn't he, for something?
I don't know,
but there wasn't there. He never spent time or anything. But anyway, just on the back of that HIV story. So that's wrestling. That's wrestling.
That's wrestling. That was our wrestling episode. So let us know what you thought of it. If you know any others that, or even ones you want us to cover, I mean, we stayed clear of things like Chris Benoit and things like that, or like the more commonly known. I mean, we did Booker T, but
we didn't do the steroid trial.
Yeah, we did the steroid trial. There's lots of the brain damage. There's lots of different criminal elements that are in popular culture that people know about if they know about wrestling.
We tried to choose either people you might not know of, or when I did like Razor Ramon, Alex did Booker T, you might not necessarily know about the criminal past. Yeah, like pre-wrestling.
So I mean, we hope you found that entertaining. It was a long one today.
Yeah. We'd like talking about wrestling. Also,
is it like to be 2 episodes, or is it?
No,
we do a really long fucking episode.
I could do it as 2 episodes. Maybe 2 episodes about 40 minutes each.
3, I think. Just do one.
Just do one.
So if you enjoyed what you listened to, if you want to give us any more subjects to cover, or if you just want to talk to me about wrestling,
or if you want Al to
Talk
come
to me about
back for
wrestling.
more, this is Al's second episode. If you'd like him to come back for any more future episodes, let us know which episodes you want him to come back on. Give us a subject, and if you want him specifically to be there.
If you specifically don't want to see me, also let us know.
Well, you'll never see
We're
him.
going to put a stop to that quite quickly.
Because it's audio.
Yeah, if you don't want to hear him ever again, we can put a stop to that. It's fun.
I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, you forgot.
We can pretend, but just won't turn his mic on.
Oh, or you could just do an impression of him. Your brothers, after all.
To be fair, I think we sound
Basically
pretty
sound
the same.
All right, so everyone, we have been
Echo
Echo
on.
I've been Christian.
I've been Chris.
Oh, and I've been Alex.
And have a lovely time. Follow us on echoonpod.com.
At Echo on Pod Instagram, at Echo on Pod Facebook, at Echo on Pod Twitter. I don't really use Facebook, but go Twitter and Instagram. It's better.
Listen to Textal.
And listen to
Listen
Textal,
to
our
Textal.
band. And he is the Al from Textal.
Oh, he's our drummer man.
Yes.
Bum,
Love
little
you.
drummer boy.
Bye. Bye.